I'm wearing my earrings and the little ring, and I brought the rattle with me that I received and purchased when I was at Feathered Pipe Ranch earlier this year. And when we were gathering together, we learned many chants, and one of the chants can be translated as, "Great Spirit, I want to live. I want to honor life, O God." And we would sing that back and forth with our leader, and back and forth as we would get the words into our heart. And we talked about how God wants us to live, not just to survive, wants us to live and thrive, and not just me, but each of you. And not just us as humans, but all of the animals that exist on this planet in their own right, as well as the trees and the land and the water. All things are alive. All these things around us are part of God's creation. And God's desire is for all to live in thriving and in abundance. And the opposite of thriving is surviving. And maybe you've had moments in your life where you felt like you were surviving a little bit. There was a day-to-day that you just had to get through. You couldn't really think too far ahead. You just had to think about what was now. I feel like for the last year and a half, there have definitely been people who have been in a surviving mental space. Maybe they have or haven't been sick, but maybe the mental frustration and depletion of being away from people, of being away from a normal schedule, maybe that has put them in a survival mode. One of the women who was at the Feathered Pipe retreat this summer was a nurse who had quit. She'd been so burned out by seeing COVID patients every day and watching them die. She asked for a sabbatical. She was turned down, so she said, "Okay, well then now I'm just done." And she was there at Feathered Pipe to find some nourishment for her soul, so she knew what to do next. She was wondering, what do I do next? A different career? What do I do next? When I think about surviving, the one story that comes to mind is my 7th grade year. And I talked to Scott about this. I was in his old stomping grounds, Waukegan, and my school was a little rough. In that 7th grade year, it felt like every day, before, after, during school, there would be some fight in the hallways. And if it was guys, the guys are usually just bumping, just being tough, kind of like gorillas. I'm tougher than you. But the girls, that was scary. And so this was me the entire 7th grade year, trying to stay as invisible as I possibly could, because I had no idea when someone I may never have met before would just look me in the eye and say, "After school, parking lot." No. But I always, as Rich said, "Do you have a safe place?" Yeah, the good part was I could go home. And when I went home, I knew I was safe, and how lucky for me. Because I'm guessing the kids that were getting in all the fights, home wasn't the safe place. But I got to go home, and I had parents that loved me, and I had my room, and I could just go into my imagination, and it really, really helped me. We all have moments in our life where we're just surviving, and that's life. This is kind of a crazy world. There's a lot of people with a lot of free will to make this world a difficult place. We're seeing this in Afghanistan, for example, where a lot of people are literally on survival mode. And it's not their fault. That's not, though, what God wants for us. God wants every one of us to thrive, to be our best self, that our passions and our gifts mature, and that we're able to use them in the world, and we're able to share and benefit from one another. But here's the thing about thriving, is you have to set up boundaries so that can be done. For the sheep to be protected, you have to make sure the wolves and the thieves don't get to them, because there are wolves and thieves in the world. Therefore, Jesus first says, I am the gate. I am that boundary through which the thieves and the wolves cannot come, so that what is inside, what is vulnerable, is protected. We have an apple tree in our yard that we got 2 years ago, just a little stick in the ground, and that thing's been blooming the best it can. It's not too big, but this year, for the first time, we noticed that there were 3 little apples trying to grow. And I had to go out and encourage it until it was doing a good job. Good job, little tree, you can do it. And then Derek and I this summer went away to Boston for a week-long trip, and when we came back, we saw that the 2 branches where those little baby apples were growing had been ripped off. And we knew what had happened. You see, our neighbor right next to us has dementia. But she loves to be outside. And we've sort of watched as her behavior has changed. It used to be when we first moved that she'd go and pick the dandelions out of our yard. We never asked her, but she just, she'd come and pick the weeds and the dandelions out of our yard, and it was harmless. And the behavior started to change. She started to pull real plants. We once noticed that all the heads of our lilies had been chopped off this spring, and so we started to take some minor measures to make sure that she wasn't getting in our yard. But this apple tree really hurt because flowers grow back, but this tree was something we were looking forward to. So I took this little gate that we use for our guinea pig when our guinea pig goes outside, and I put it around the apple tree. Right on that side. You can knock it over, you can walk over it, but I knew that that was all we needed to protect the tree. The tree was vulnerable, and even though she doesn't mean to do harm, she's doing harm. So in this world, God wants the thriving of all that lives. God wants the diversity and the creativity, the way we were made, the fullness of who we are, God wants brought out. And we see how beautiful that can be when it unfolds. But we need gates in this world, don't we? In your life, you may need to put up a gate because there's someone who, whether they're intending to or not, could harm you by either sucking all your time and energy away from you, or your money, whatever it is. You have to put up those boundaries, right? Say, nope, I'm not going to do this. Or nope, I'm only going to give you 10 minutes. Or no, I can't do it that day. I have something else going on, meaning I'm taking a bath and getting a massage, whatever it is. We have to put up boundaries in our life. Even our internet has boundaries. It's called the virus protection and scam protections, right? Those are boundaries to protect us. And we also, in good working government and situations, should also have laws that protect us from the predators that would seek to take advantage of us as people. The most vulnerable in a society are the ones that government should be protecting, not the most powerful. When things are broken, the powerful are protected, and the weak and vulnerable are exploited. And that is not the will of God. That is the opposite of the will of God. Whether that happens in churches, in schools, in places of business, in homes, when the powerful are protected and the weak are hurt, it is the opposite of God's intention. Right now, what we're seeing in our country is that we have people who are vulnerable to the virus, people who have not been able to be vaccinated because of their age or sometimes their medical status. They do not have a vaccine that they can take. What is the will of God? To protect the vulnerable so that all can thrive. So we put up a boundary, and the boundary is those who are vaccinated. That's a simple way to look at it. My sister had a beautiful picture where all of her family is over 12 except their youngest. And she took a picture of them where they all had their little shots, and they were surrounding the littlest one. And she said, like a herd, we are protecting the vulnerable. That is our job. And I thought that was a beautiful, simple way to do it. Sometimes you have to give something up so life can thrive. You have the power, you have the position, and so the boundary, the gate, means you don't get to go wherever you get to go. Our neighbor might be frustrated that there is a gate and she cannot come into our yard where she wants to. That is the price of life sometimes. Sometimes in order for us to have abundant life, sometimes something must be bound. And that's what we're struggling with as a country, because we focus so much on the fact that I get to be as free as I want to be. That's abundant life, right? No. Abundant life is collective. We are all connected to one another. And the more we deny that, the more we're going to cause harm to ourselves and the planet. The planet is screaming out to us because we have denied that we're connected to it. In order for us all to thrive, we have to know how to bind what is harmful and loose and protect what is vulnerable. So what does it mean for you today? I'll end with one story of life. When we were in Colorado, my whole family, earlier this August, we all went out to a Mexican restaurant. And we were all 15 of us at a really long table outside. And there was one poor couple in the back who was now going to be exposed to the Strummins. And one of the things we did was quietly prayed, and we sang the doxology, which is something we do. But we didn't want to do it too loudly, to take over. But this little couple politely clapped for us, And we kept making jokes because then my dad wanted a selfie with all of us, so we eventually asked them to take a picture for us. And I kept saying, I'm sorry, you just have to put up with us. We do these things, right? And then at the end, when they finally had paid their bill and got up to leave, as a joke for the fact that we'd kind of taken over their dinner to some degree in the same space, my sister just turned around and she gave them the blessing, the Aaronic blessing, the one that says, may the Lord bless you and keep you, may the Lord's face shine upon you. She kind of did it as a little joke, sort of like, we're sending you with a blessing because here we are taking over the whole room. And the woman stopped and she turned around and she said, I want to tell you something. This is my third bout with cancer. I have stage 4 cancer. And I am not here to beat cancer. I don't know if I will beat this one. But I will tell you that I'm here to leave a legacy of love. And I see that your family is a Christian family with a lot of love. And I just want you to know that I can feel that from you guys today. And I looked, and she gave us a card, and it said, inspire the world, be a good human, leave a legacy of love. Her life force may not thrive and exist much beyond, who knows. But her thriving, she knew that her thriving was something else, that it came from the soul, that she was there to shine her light as brightly as she could, to show love, to show the world that they are cared about. And I thought that was really powerful. Oh God, I want to live. I want to honor life. Aho.